It is a wet Wednesday, this December 7th, 2022, but a Wednesday nonetheless, and I feel thankful for being on another adventure with 540 days left to train and prepare my life to be ready to thru-hike the Appalachian Trail in 2024. Today, I'm at Morgan Hill State Forest near Syracuse, New York. I will get to walk upon parts of the Finger Lakes Trail and to the North Country Trail, both, in this loop. That means they will be very well marked, and I will find out that I will need this later on. Today is a long day with all trails promising 11.9 miles and 2,106 feet of elevation gain, so I intentionally keep my pace slower out of the gate so it'll be good for the long haul. The trail has pockets of water and cold, wet leaves to slip on anyway. It's hard to stay at a slower pace as the water around me is rushing and urging me on with its noisy serenade. That, combined with starting out at noon, late in the day for a longer trek, has my body, my common sense, and my giddiness all at battle with each other. I'm telling you, it's the mental conditioning that needs the most work in this training. My body has this thing. As with every trail I'm on, I say a little prayer of thanks to the volunteers that keep up the signs and blazes. I'm doing some calculations in my head, and I know I will be finishing with over an hour in the dark. Even though it's 50 degrees on this December day, there's limited light and limited time for it to stay light. I'm not an expert at night hiking by any stretch, so I'm going to need those trail markers. My first view. I love the trail and the technical terrain it offers, but I also love stumbling upon interesting, creepy artifacts near bodies of water. Someone lived here before, a lot of people. I get curious about the history of the area as I trip over a flattened stone and how these predecessors came to terms with being on this land, in this spot, and the work it took to be alive here. What an absolutely beautiful spot to settle and take up roots. Later, I find out that while first this was an Iroquois hunting land, the whole area was cleared for farming by European settlers, but it was unproductive land, so conifers were replanted after the farmers moved to the Midwest and searched for better soil. My heart has opinions about this. Moving forward, hello Finger Lakes Trail, old friend. I'm intentionally taking in the scenery again, letting nature as it is today be refreshing for me, as part of being out here is to fix my face and my mood, being an escape back into a different realism that exists outside of everyday boxes. I'm looking for the little things of beauty to be grateful for, and honing in on smaller and more picturesque details allows me to stay more present in the moment. A large section of the loop I'm doing today ends up being on Morgan Hill Road, but it adds its own eerie beauty. When I look to either side, I can see trail, so I'll have to come back here and explore again. Off the road and back on the trail now, and the wonderful world of waterfalls and more water crossing begins. There were many times that the only way to get to the other side was to wade through. Thank you, waterproof boots and layers of merino wool. I remember how dry this summer was and joking about doing rain dances with friends. Not now. My boots and pant legs were getting a fair share of soaking. In some places, I wish I brought my trekking poles to prevent slipping in the current, but alas, mistakes will be made. Live and learn. I also saw a lean-to in this section, but I didn't pause for very long because a person, with his dog and his skunky plant, had taken up residence there. And, well, you never know. Good to know where there's shelter on the trail, though. And bridges. Thank goodness for bridges. It's getting darker now, and I recognize the need to put some pep in my step to get the most out of the dusky, foggy daylight that I have left, especially if there will be more water crossing in the upcoming trail. I have my headlamp in my pocket, but make a commitment to test my eyes and my feet coordination for as long as possible without the aid. Dark comes quickly, like a magic blanket. I very quickly learned that my headlamp is pretty useless in the foggy, drizzly weather that I'm in. It acts like high beams would in the fog, and my visibility is very limited. And now I start to play trust your gut in the dark and check the map every 100 feet or so to get back to the car while staying calm and upright in the water and on the wet roots. But I do make it back to the car, feeling really good about the commitment I've made to training, the practice I just got in being in the elements in the dark, and the 13.5 miles I accomplished for this day. Till next time, happy trails.